I can see you on the bus there, Bob. Were you impressed? Australian-made electric vehicle. Is this the Brave New World?
Brave New World was Adam Bant, the leader of the Greens, and myself coming together.
On the same bus, literally.
Look, you know, we're proving, Adam Bant, myself, and the member for Tasmania are all different points of spectrum, but we can come together to do something good for Australia. I mean, surely the ALP and LNP could do the same instead of spending all their time bashing hell out of each other. But it's not funny now. I mean, the Cold War is back, and they're not communists now, they're imperialists, and naked imperialists. One wants Ukraine and one wants Taiwan. Oh, that's all we want. Yeah, like, all we want is Sudetenland, then all we want is Austria, then all we want is Poland, and all, you know, and then we get the Second World War. So, you know, we want self-sufficiency, but the person that's leading, one of the people leading this, the member for Tasmania, served in the army, as I have, and both of us appreciate that we have no petrol. I mean, we have 2 or 3 days' supply. And the answer to that by the government, for which they will be forever laughed at and shamed, is to put tankers in the United States. If China embargoes our oil, and I mean, heavens, what touched off the First World War? Oil. What touched off the Second World War? With Japan? Oil. What touched off the war I was in was with Indonesia. What touched it off? Oil. The oil supplies in Borneo had been taken by Indonesia. So what do we have wars about? Gulf wars, Afghanistan wars? About oil. Let's be self-sufficient.
I think we've got a bit more than 2 or 3 days, but we are short of the World Energy Agency requirement we have had for quite a while. And the government, I think you're alluding to the fact the government has supplies shored up, but they're overseas. But I just might ask one more question around the buses. What else should we make that we're not making at the moment that's viable?
I don't want to jump ahead of us, but we will be putting legislation into the House. There are members of the ALP very actively fighting to get the ALP on side. All the crossbenchers, I'm pretty certain, are on side with what's going forward. And
on what specifically?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be too specific on proper conduct and all that sort of thing. But if we're making buses, obviously we can make motor cars. And I mean, you know, we can't make motor cars? Well, 62% of the Australian market was held by the Australian motor vehicle called Holden.
But that's gone. I mean, what are you saying? We need to make cars.
And well, we're making buses now. We've made there are people making
a few hundred buses is different to making tens of thousands of cars.
That's exactly right, and that's where the government has got to come in. The manufacturing industry in Australia could have been preserved without costing the taxpayers a cent. All the government had to say was all government cars in Australia will be made in Australia. That's all they had to say.
Hang on, but that does cost money. If you say that every government car will be made in Australia, you're locking into one particular type of car. If the government has to pay more as a result, that costs the taxpayer.
The cars being made in Australia brings in tax revenue. Let's say it's 10,000 million a year. No, let me be specific. It's about 5,000 million a year, right? Well, 1,500 million immediately comes back by way of tax revenue for the country. I mean, the great statement was on the building, and it's a good question that you ask. The great statement came on the building of the Snowy Mountains, and the bloke quoted the Boston Bridge in America. And the bloke advocating that Americans build the Boston Bridge, they said, oh, the British only people can build the bridge. He said, look, if we build the bridge, we got the bridge and we got the money. If Britain builds the bridge, we got the bridge, but they got the money, right? So we build the motor cars in Australia, we've got the cars, we've got the money. If it's built overseas, we got the cars, but we haven't got the money. It's gone overseas.
Well, I mean, you've also got the fact that these were companies that were building cars in Australia were actually foreign-owned anyway.
And probably, so we're saying that the factory in Australia will be
cars on a big scale
will be huge predominantly. No.
That's what the car company said. Well,
Toyota said, if you keep propping up the dollar, we have to get out of here. They didn't say labour costs.
What do you mean propping up the dollar?
The dollar has been propped up when it was allowed to free float under Keating at Treasurer. It went down to 49 cents. When it was allowed to free float under Costello, it went to 50 cents. And I mean, we're in a lot worse condition.
But how's it being propped up now?
They buy the dollar and they put up the interest rates artificially high.
Interest rates?
interest rates are
Interest rates are
extremely low,
0.1%.
extremely low,
Yeah.
but they're even lower still overseas.
Well, they're going up overseas. They're going up in America. They're still at 0.1. We don't have propped up interest rates in Australia at all.
You know, need I repeat that when the dollar was allowed to free float, God bless Keating for allowing it to free float, it went down to 49 cents.
Well, it goes
when it was
all over
allowed
the
to
place.
free
It's
float
still free
under Costello, it's not. It's not.
The only
it
thing
is
that,
being
the only thing
propped
that
up.
happens is the RBA
In both
buys
cases, they
government
propped it up.
bonds, but government bonds are different to the dollar, Bob.
Look, I don't want to get an economics debate, but they've got three weapons that they use.
Let me ask you a couple
They buy
more.
dollars, they have bonds,
okay.
and they have the interest rates. They control those three. And
Well,
that's
they
how they
do, but
control
interest rates are at record lows
the dollar.
while others put things
But
up.
the dollar should be at 50 cents, it's at 70 cents.